TJ is in the house doing group votes, and I could not be happier. Plus, Beth's got jeans from the Gauntlet too. Shout out to her. Leroy's got poop jokes. No one wants to do the daily challenge. Amber is still very good at this game, but maybe still much too nice for this game. Frank is getting busy. Adam and Steve are old but game. And Sylvia and KellyAnne remind the house that this is, in fact, a Rivals season. It's the challenge All Stars 5 Rivals. Episode 2 recap coming up right now. What up, my fellow challenge lovers? Welcome to The Challenge Historian, where we dive deep into all things MTV's The Challenge, past, present, or future. If it's happening in the Challenge universe, we are here to document it. I am your host and dedicated challenge historian, Jacob Hollabaugh. Thank you so very much for being here with me on this Wednesday night, Thursday morning, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, anytime, any day, anywhere you may be listening. Thank you for tuning in and hanging out with me as we discuss the second straight banger of an episode of All Stars 5. I am loving it. Rivals, the cast, the setting, the gameplay, everything about this season. We will get into it. This episode had so many things, and for those longtime, very astute listeners, maybe you were with me, maybe you've agreed with me on some things they should bring back from the past that were brought back from the past in this episode, and I could not have been more thrilled and more excited to talk to you all about it. Before we do, only programming reminder is earlier this week or last weekend, pending if you're listening or watching, I finally did release the Battle of the Eras season recap and awards, and it had about a 25, I think almost minute state of the challenge kind of monologue at the start. Everything on this podcast is a monologue. I'm just talking to myself here, but if you listen to it, you know what I mean. We talked about the state of the challenge, where, Battle of the Eras kind of fell short, why I was so excited for and enjoying the first episode of All Stars 5, how I had watched some Dirty 30 out of nowhere recently, and actually follow up on that. I didn't end up watching the rest of that season, but I have been clicking on MTV2 more often now, and today watched 2 episodes of Final Reckoning. It was just like, damn, we had it really good. We had it so good. But anyway, so that's there. If you haven't listened or watched that yet, go back and you can use the timestamps to easily maneuver if you want to hear the state of the challenge chunk up top, or if you just want to hear the Battle of the Eras recap and awards at the end. And then otherwise, you will just be having All Stars 5 recaps every Wednesday night for the foreseeable future, with some best of each era content coming as soon as we can get around to it. The agenda for this podcast, obviously just episode 2, All Stars 5, running through, same as we always do, walk through the episode, awards, power rankings, and predictions. So without further ado, let's dive in. Episode 2, All Stars 5 Rivals. Here we go. The episode opens, and not counting the last week on Turbo and Nani narration, which I do always enjoy, that they've been doing this a few seasons in a row now, or at least a few All-Star seasons in a row, having wasn't the elimination winners of the last episode, because there wasn't one, but having a winner of last episode, or a focus point of last episode, do the narration for what went down. I actually really like that. But not counting that, once that's over, the actual open of the episode is them outside having fun playing beer pong. And I literally started typing in my notes instantly: beer pong equals great sign. Let's go party. The vibes are good in Vietnam for All Stars 5. Everything's great. And then immediately the first words we hear are straight into who's targeting whose strategy. Devin and Leroy, I think. I was at least Devin, if not some other people who they should be strategizing or targeting. And I was like, 50-50. Okay, we at least got to see. We at least know they're having fun. I would like to see more of that, and didn't need the first words to instantly be like, but we're going to get to who we're targeting here. But I will give the full episode, both episodes so far, credit in this way. 60 minutes instead of 90. We've been doing 90-minute seasons and all across all types and platforms and formats here for a while. And I've got to say, I like the 60 minutes. It obviously, I always want more challenge, but I feel like we're getting the same amount of good. And obviously this season so far, 2 for 2 on, like, I really, really am enjoying this and thinking we're getting great stuff. So they're doing a good job fitting this into 60 minutes. And it kind of feels, it's the first of many things that kind of feel about this season a little more older, when I say old school challenge, it's weird because it's like, do you mean like the first 10 seasons? Do you mean like the next 10 seasons, the 10 after that, whatever. And so kind of, especially in this, old school could mean season 5, 15, or 25. It means nothing beyond, like, free agents is the cutoff for me. If it, like, the early rival seasons, early 20s seasons are now official. They're more like mid school. I should probably, clarify. The teens in the first 20 seasons are all like old school in a way. I guess that's going to be my breakdown for now. And hopefully I did that quick mental math in my head correct for how I use those terms for the rest of this podcast. But then we go into Amber and Fessy. They take center stage. Their duo rivalry takes center stage momentarily, which is just an instant cue, especially in these 60-minute episodes. We're like, boom, okay. The two I'm rooting for, that duo, is either winning this daily challenge or they're going to be the first target going into elimination. Let's find out. My money going in, as I predicted from last episode, was on them winning the daily. So in this moment, I was like, ooh, I feel like I'm going to get this one right. I feel like they're going to be in power. But before we could go to the daily, we had to learn about Beth's pants. Now, the editing seems to make it out that these are, in fact, the exact pants she was wearing on Gauntlet 2. Or the duel, whichever, I forget which one they were showing footage of there. But she doesn't like explicitly say it. She just says she's had the whole thing. She's had these for 30 years. I don't know that she ever explicitly says I wore them on this season. So maybe that's just editing. Maybe those are literally the exact pants. Either way, it's a fun moment. Shout out to everyone involved for it's just like a fun house moment as they're like kind of shooting the shit, having a good time with each other. Shout out to Beth. Your pants from how it would 10, 20, 30 years ago fit you well still. Good job by you. Okay. Good job by you, Beth. Won't be saying a lot of that through this episode. So this one definitely deserves a good job by you to her on that one. So loved the whole little moment. Those are the types of moments, that are just really fun to have a couple of those every episode of like reminder that these people do find a way to have some fun, find a way to have a good time in the house. Then we head to the daily challenge, and it is on top of that very tall building that, unlike on Battle of the Eras, when we did visit this building, when they really set it up the episode before and the episode of like, them all looking at it from the bar and et cetera, we knew they were going to be there. It was in the trailer, and because it was in the trailer, fairly prominent, we've assumed it was, one of the first 2 or 3 daily challenges, given that they kind of show us in the trailer some people doing it. So I was excited for this. And overall, I like the design. I do like that they do a couple heights, like real height challenges, at least one like legit height challenge every season. I think that's a good staple to mix in there. And I thought this was a fairly good design of a height based challenge, especially for pairs version of it. Not anywhere near their best ever, but pretty good, pretty simple. Gets your height challenge. It's maybe too, I think it was last week or maybe on the Battle of the Eras recap about the kind of like thinking through the behind the scenes production of like, you don't want the daily challenge with a 2-hour drive there and then a 7-hour shoot and a 2-hour drive back, and suddenly you have no time to film anything at the house that day. And so on that front, maybe 10-minute time limit for each of them is a little long, makes for a longer shoot, but eventually you get rained out. We'll talk about that in a second. This group overall has to be the most scared group I can remember in challenge history, as far as the percent of the cast that was clearly terrified. And any one of them could say, even the ones going after Fessy, it's like, oh, we weren't going to win. Even the ones going before, like, we weren't going to win, or we didn't think we were going to do good, or like last place doesn't go straight in. So why bother? Why bother? Because you're there and you should do it. And TJ's calling you out, and you should respect that this is a thing TJ cares a lot about and the viewers are going to care a lot about, and you should do it. You should just do it. But this is the most scary group I've ever seen. There's people crying as they walk out onto the helipad. I don't know that Ashley looking like she threw up in her mouth in the elevator was about the heights or anything, because she's one actually like smiling in the background as everyone else is horrified when Steve and Adam jump. But so many people quit. So many people want nothing to do with this. And from the game perspective, yes, I understand last place is fine. So you're not feeling incentivized to like, we have to or else. And though the couple people that I think like 2 literally that got to go after Amber and Fessy crushed it. I get it. Doing, you're not going to beat them. Okay. whatever. But especially if you are the person who was supposed to be the holder and you're the one that was like, we ain't doing this. Anissa, Sylvia, I think Corey and Big T was a mutual decision. I think Sam and Frank was somewhat of a mutual decision. Anissa and Sylvia, there were others, but especially like when you're the one, you just have to hold. Okay, you got to look at your feet a little bit, but you don't really even got to look down. You don't got to get that close to the edge, and you could at least get the one. Like I really respected Davon and Shane for being like, we got one, and it was pretty freaky. And every other one, I'm gonna have to lean further, and it felt sketchy, and we were gonna fall. So like we did it, we did something, and we're good. We're gonna stop here. Respect for that. That's doing it. That's pushing it. And you're like, we're probably gonna fall if we go for the next one, and we don't feel like falling, so we're done. Good job. That's amazing. I think everyone could have pulled that off. I think everyone should have been able to get one or try for the one. Falling wouldn't be bad. End of that. Fessy and Amber, though, they were made for this. I do think they're going to be made for a lot of dailies, but this one in particular was like perfect for the two of them. All right. Fessy nails the math, which tangent. Dario and Ashley, we will talk about it when we do the power rankings, but this math was very easy math. And so for them to just time out / quit, like maybe they were never going to do the other part. And so they didn't really care that much, but not a good sign. You are dropping precipitously down the power rankings if you can't do this math. There will at least be a little bit of this in the finals somewhere, somehow. Back to Amber and Fessy. So Fessy crushes the math, as most of the people there did crush the math pretty quickly. So he's got that on lock. She is not scared, first and foremost, as almost everyone else was. That's great. She is tall and long and can reach out super far, and he can hold her up ×2 easily, no problem. And they communicate pretty well, and they crush this. So great job by them. I predicted them to win the most dailies this season. Not every one of them will be perfectly tailored to like, this fits our skill sets to a T, but they have a pretty wide skill set and are definitely, I think they're the team to beat, more or less. If everyone ran a final, if everyone did all the dailies and whatever, is just who won the most things, I think they would be, the odds on favorite for that. So showing out early, and then we get the rain out. And it kind of had me thinking, I was surprised that we haven't had more rainouts in challenge history, or like weather outs. I'm glad the three teams were just like, as much as the quitting was annoying me, those three teams being like, it seems like it would suck for everyone, like literally have the cast, the production, all of us to have to come back here tomorrow just to lose to Fessy and Amber. So we're good. We're all good. So they get a pass for that, and I appreciate their decision to just kind of, for the betterment of the show and the operation and everyone's enjoyment, including the viewers. It did remind me, I'm sure it's happened more times, and I'm sure it's happened times where they don't tell us or it's not explicit in the televised product, but it did remind me of way back, true old school here, real old school, Challenge 2000, the opening challenge. They got to jump off the stratosphere in Vegas, and they had to stop halfway through or 2/3 of the way through because it got too windy to keep doing it, and they had to come back the next day, which was amazing because that was then the moment where Tech goes out that night, because at that time they didn't have to like even stay at the house. They could go do whatever they want. They were in Vegas. Tech went out, came back the next morning, and Rachel B, now of Sway on the Morning fame, was she on Sway? She's big radio personality from original New York season, gives him shit, like playfully tackles him to the ground, is like, what the hell? Like they were all just waiting on him. Like, we hope Tech shows back up. So that was amazing. And I thought maybe Veronica, having been on that season, we were going to get a little confessional about that. But anyways, I digress. Impressed that hasn't happened more often. And yeah, solid daily all around. Back to the house we go. And it is mostly strategy and game talk, which is fine. And obviously gets made up for at the end of the episode when we end up back at the house. They really did fit a lot in the 60-minute time. I'm just really enjoying how they're doing everything this season. And I'm really enjoying that Frank is back, as I expected, as I hoped for, as I predicted, because he's the best. He is an all-time Hall of Famer instantly the moment he was in the challenge house. as much as you very much might have hated him on his initial season, and you might have had a reason to, as far as his treatment of his now rival all these years later, Sam, he is just, he's television gold, that is for sure, on the show. And he is locked in to, I love him even just being honest in the confessional of like, so far 0 for 2 as far as like really getting to like do stuff in the challenges, and that's a bummer, but that doesn't mean that we can't just go to 100 out of 100 on the politics and social game and still have a damn good time here. So that's what he's doing. He's locked in, and I love that he's just already spreading whispers, seeing where they go, seeing what it does to the house, not super afraid of if he ended up in elimination or it ends up costing him anything, just seeing probably going to be end up pretty good pot stirring social gameplay, political gameplay. If it backfires, it backfires, but just loving everything from him. Loving that Nicole is instantly, the untrustworthy one in the house. And we do get to, learn of the Nicole Adam friendship outside of the house that I assume is short in nature as far as it's from All Stars 4 into now, but is a new connection and new alliance possibly that will be interesting to monitor as this cast is a bunch of it's a true web. What we're looking for as far as like there's a bunch of people who have one really strong connection and then maybe a secondary connection or two, and those secondary connections have their strong connection, and so are those people woven together or not, and the whole house kind of all is woven in one big thing, and where those things are going to break. So it was interesting learning one extra layer there, and an unexpected one at that, as I didn't see that to be something that we're going to have to consider in the alliance breakdown. Then we move on to Amber. We'll talk about it here. It's partially with what there ends up being the decision in the arena as well, but she's clearly already, technically this wasn't her first ever daily challenge win, but it was her first, I think it was either Alan or challenge stats. One of the two, Alan Aguirre or challenge stats, probably Alan, during the episode, pointing out that it's her first daily challenge win where like her performance mattered. Her only other one, even as a champion, her only other one was with Darrell in trivia, but she was out and it was just Darrell doing the trivia and ends up winning it for them. So kind of her first daily win where it was like, both of us are out here competing and doing the whole thing. Either way, second overall for a champion is pretty interesting. So she's still very good at the game, the physical part of the game, the dailies, the elims, the finals, but she's also just still really nice and considering people's feelings maybe a little bit too much without thinking of like, could I get something out of the game while also still caring about these people? Because she does Veronica a solid, because she's like, Veronica's been nice. Like we did a season together and she was nice to me. And there's not that many people that are nice to me in these houses, even though I'm freaking nice to everyone 100% of the time. Like the mystery of all mysteries still remains and continues, because then Veronica in confessional is like, that's cool that she told me, but like, I don't care about her game a bit. Not that I needed Veronica to be like, that was such good information that you just gave me that you're my number one or anything. Like, no, but we didn't need to be like, yeah, I don't care about her, but thanks, didn't love that and don't love it for Amber's game. And then later, she mostly doesn't want to put Nicole in because Melissa is a mom. And I will say, as a little bit of a defense, because obviously they put in Janae, mom, that is maybe a younger mom or a single mom, is maybe, Amber, a newer, younger, meaning the child is younger. Maybe Amber feels more of a connection in that way, just to get in front of the, like, well, she said she didn't want to put in a mom, so she put in a different mom type of thing. But she, there's a way here to extract some value out of this decision. And while I totally agree, and we'll talk about in a moment, her and Fessy's decision, I think Amber, there was a world where she could go to Melissa and explain, your name has come up from a lot of people. Fessy and I have discussed it. And my main issue with it is like, I kind of feel this connection with you over this. And I feel like I don't need to be your number one, but like, do you have similar feelings about it? Like there could have been something there. So I'm still on watch of like, is Amber too nice? And is she able to find a way to mix in the gameplay with being nice and caring about people? And then finally, they do the vote. And I am not kidding when I tell you, I jumped up out of my chair, yelled, yes, and fist pumped That's what I did. That is the reaction, live reaction while watching a challenge. Jumped up out of my chair, yelled yes, fist pump when TJ walks in and it's the whole house voting out in the open, old school style, in mid school style. I said I was going to mid school style, old and mid school style. It was the way the old school version worked too, but then also through the mid school. And the original Rivals in 1 and 2 and 3 is TJ's in the house. Everyone sits together. He goes around and votes. Things happen. It's just so much better this way than, it's at least okay when there's a whole group house voting all together. Seeker votes, I don't want anything to do with them. 2 people voting on 2 other people, I don't want anything to do with it. This is what works for the challenge. This is the best case version, and it's even better that TJ is there asking for the votes live. Amazing. I was so pumped. So pumped. And it just felt like it was one of many things where I was just like, it feels like the challenge that we love so much. Like they are reincorporating all these little elements that make it feel like I'm watching a season from the 20s or early 30s again, and not from the last, 3 or 4 years and 10-ish or so seasons of the show have been good in their own right. But this feels so much better. It feels like we're back in a lot of ways. And TJ being there, the whole house voting in front of everyone, burn votes, the whole thing feels really great. Then we go to the arena, the jungle, aka, and something to point out here that is then relevant when we talk after this about the house segment. I think it was Corey Lay, shout out to Corey, and Challenge Stats, who had found where the 2 houses, Challenge Stats had found where the 2 houses were in Vietnam, and that they're pretty close to each other, very close to each other. And then it was Corey, and I think maybe Chavez, or some others. I think I've seen a couple different conversations about it, but that cast from both shows had seen or knew that where the other house was and everything, especially with the couple people from eras on this season were like, all right, our house was right over there. And the jungle, the arena, the elimination area is literally behind the house they're staying in on this season. And so everyone from Battle of the Eras was familiar with that this house was there, because they would always come over to the jungle over here, and it was like a 5-minute drive or something. And so that is why it's great is great on so many levels, mainly back to the thing we referenced before, from a production standpoint, not having to waste time with the drives and anything gives you so much more time in the house and able to do things like go back to the house after the elimination, which we'll get to, because first we have to talk about the elimination. That's what we started to discuss. Amber and Fessy, they picked Jonna and Beth to go in, and it feels like an actual blindside for once. Jonna and Beth definitely did not think they were going in. There had been a few names. There was no consensus. And I don't think this was just good editing or anything. I think this was a legit, not a blindside in far as this was their master plan to throw these 2 in and they kept them off the scent, but a blindside in the fact that Jonna and Beth had no idea, and Amber and Fessy were kind of making their minds up last minute and hadn't really filled anyone in on what they wanted to do. And first off, I like the overall format. I'll just touch on that here really quick. TJ had said it before, but we got confirmation once they got there. Daily challenge winners can throw themselves in. So this is basically the exact same setup as All Stars 4. We give out 4 stars. You can only win a star via elimination. If the daily challenge winner wants to throw themselves in, they can. And if star versus star is in the elimination and one goes home, you get to give that star to someone else. If you already have one and win one, you can give one to someone else, another team in this instance. The only real difference is the voting structure, no last place in, and obviously they're voting in pairs and live with TJ there. So this is perfect. This is just so good. So good. Love the format. Love that there's no way they're splitting these rivals up. So this is the format for the season. Maybe there's a 5th star bonus thrown in at the end, which I would be all for. But otherwise, we've got the format from the start. I think it's a great one. Love everything about it. The no last place going in, I know it disincentivizes, and I am usually not thrilled about that. But I think the voting will be great. And I think with the star version, people wanting to go in, is the thing that was kind of weird on All Stars 4 of don't you? So now people are going to try to get last. And so I think it's actually a kind of a necessary thing to remove that. So overall format, great. back to Amber and Fessy's decision for Johnny and Beth. I think it is the smart choice. They want to, as they both say in confessional, they want to pick a team that they think will lose and not come back. And the game in front of them that they're seeing, you don't know what it is. Definitely, I'm not remembering now the couple that were on air as if they were there long enough to have seen these tubes and poles be used before by Johnny and Theo or not, but it's not like they'd be like telling them anything. And so I think they pick a team that they have a good chance of, like, respect to John A. But like, I think picking Beth is a good choice when you're not totally positive on what the game is overall. And you want to pick a team that isn't going to come back, and you want to pick a team that, if they do come back, isn't going to ruffle too many feathers. And it feels like Beth and John A aren't super connected to anyone, aren't like anyone's top ride or die team or anything like that. And that you definitely, as Amber and Fessy, have no connection to in any way or should have no reason to. So it wouldn't be like that. And then on top of all of that, I think Fessy says it in one of his confessionals, or maybe it was Amber. One of them definitely says something to the fact of, like, we don't want to target one of the good teams yet, essentially. Like, we don't want that, we don't want to start that kind of war that quickly. And that's really smart as well, as far as, like, look, we don't want to set a precedent. Not that we made any deals or that we're necessarily getting anything out of this, but we don't want to be, as the first ones doing this, set the precedent of star holders get called out or biggest threats in the game get called out, because Amber and Fessy are probably thinking, we're probably the biggest threat in the game, and we hope to get a star sooner rather than later. So, like, we want there to, in the back of their minds, they're probably thinking, like, we eventually want, the best teams with stars to stick together and, like, take our shots in the finals. So all in all, a good decision by them. I think they made the right choice. It does, clearly work out for them. The game is pretty cool. They clearly are, as referenced before, they're going to reuse pieces of Battle of the Era's eliminations. We saw Johnny and Theo do the game where they had to pull themselves through over and over and play the high-low with TJ to put more poles in each other's thing. And so these are same poles, just probably spray painted with the same tunnel, also potentially painted or whatever. But I love that, I assumed they were going to use a lot of the same equipment and things. And my hope was that they didn't just do all of the same eliminations. So this is an amazing start to see. Yes, we are going to reuse that because it's, way better for our production to get to reuse some stuff. Like, to build all this stuff is a big, big undertaking. So we want to use it more than once if we can. And that's why we're doing these seasons in the same location. But we're going to completely remix it and make it a completely different game. And so love that. Really enjoyed the design of the whole thing. It was a good showing by all four. And it was a really great showing by the challenge editors, because I'm not usually tricked by the, like, they always, their goal is to make it look as close as they can make, as the footage allows them to make it look. No matter what the actual outcome was, the closer they can make it look, the better for a TV audience. And usually I'm not very tricked. And this time I was, like, legitimately a little bit tricked. Like, they made me believe that John A. and Beth had, like, come back and even taken a very slight lead. And they definitely had me thinking that they both spun the fifth one at the same time, and that they were both, like, grabbing the poles at the same time. And I was like, well, it's John A. on the outside and she's moving plenty fast. And so, like, this is anyone's game. This is a toss up. And then suddenly it's Steven, Adam are finished, and John A. hasn't even, like, put the second of the 5 poles in. And you're like, oh, dang it, I got. I was completely tricked. I thought this was, like, neck and neck, and it was close. Again, good showing by everyone. But the editors, great showing by them. And that wasn't the end of the episode, which was amazing. I was like, wait, there's time left. Like, something's going to happen here. And something definitely happened. They went back to the house, and we got to say goodbye at the house. Again, it is literally in the backyard, according to some cast members. And so they just have to walk back inside. They don't have to carry all their stuff out or put it on a bus or anything like that. And this is amazing. I get that it's a little different when, this is setup allows for that very easily. But, like, I loved way back now, old school, and to use my terms correctly again, true old school, when it was like, go back and you got 30 minutes or an hour or whatever to pack up and say your goodbye. And we had iconic moments, many, up to and including the infamous shower possible threesome on the Gauntlet. But, you know, there was times for things like that. There was times for like, well, you never got to hook up with that person. You always wanted to, and now they're willing to because you're going home. There's time for that type of stuff. And so I love when they get to go back to the house and kind of pack their things and say goodbye. There, it could lead to some really fun and good scenes. And it just feels better than like you two go out that way from the arena and the rest of you go out that way, but then you're both going to get on the bus. And it's just, you know, it just feels better this way. I like it. And I also like Janae keeping it real in the confessionals, like a pro. She, you know, it's very fun back and forth of Beth being like, I feel like we turned a corner even in this short time. We're friends. And Janae being like, I don't care if I ever talk to her again. We're not friends. This wasn't nearly long enough to have brought us together. Janae was a good sport while it lasted. She was a good sport in the Daily Challenge. I couldn't believe she made the Step Brothers reference. Did we just become best friends? So good on her for sticking it out as long as she did. I also believe her when she says, you know, I don't know that I could have done a full season with Beth as my partner. In her situation, I could see that being the case. And so they go home and, you know, we lose Beth and all the instigation that can come from her being in the challenge house. We lose a legit rival pair. But I think as far as the show and the competition is considered, you know, this cast is awesome and we're going to be okay having lost the two of them. And then we get the big moment, the biggest scene. They saved it for the very, very end. KellyAnne and Sylvia, who definitely, you know, coming in, we were like, okay, they're real rivals. Their beef was short-lived, but clear as day that these two women just did not get along when they were last together on All Stars 3. Whichever All Stars it was. But it still was like, there wasn't like a ton there. Like it was clear that you two did not like each other, did not get along, but it wasn't like the biggest, craziest thing in the world. But these two women do not get along at all. They just do not. There is no world where they're going to. And they are as good of a rivals pair as we got. And they remind us that this season is in fact rivals because we're seeing a lot of friendly pairs here, which was expected for the most part. These two, though, in the Daily Challenge, you know, they're not having it. There's some the exchange there is great. We'll talk about all the exchanges in the quote of the week coming up here. But the exchange here is, you know, just classic, like, yes, there's a world where this conversation could have been a coming together, an understanding, a let's get to know each other and actually learn some things. But it started with respect. Both of them whoever spoke first, I think this was going to be the outcome. So it's not all on Sylvia for opening with the, like, you're kind of people think you're condescending. People don't say that. Well, maybe you are. Maybe they just don't tell you, like all of that. But then Sylvia dropping you have dogs, I have a family is so vicious. And I say that as someone my dog is sitting back. Hey, Bodie, you want to come be on camera? No, he's going to stay over there sleeping. But yeah, as a dog guy, as a cat guy, as an animal lover, vicious words from Sylvia. Also, KellyAnne just got married like fairly recently. And so like family, like she doesn't have children, like, human children yet, but like she just got married. She does have a lot of animals. Like, come on, you know. Anyways, just unbelievably vicious words. And that escalates things. And it is just a classic challenge, yell off, back and forth. And yeah, and Amber has to come in and, you know, separate again. The nice, like Amber being nice, is Sylvia gonna be like, oh, so you like Kelly? You know, there's ways. This again might be Amber being nice and finding a way to create more enemies. I don't think that's actually going to happen here. I think she's doing the right thing because this needed to be broken up. And my only hope moving forward, I mean, this great performance by both of these women, bringing the rivals to a rival season. My main hope is we have gotten a lot of like, if this is how it's going to be, I'm just going to quit from KellyAnne. And we can't have that. Please, no. Because they are going to be good at this. If they ever just both like do the challenge, they're going to be good at this. They're both good competitors. And we need, I don't want them to, you know, have this, the whole time. That's not good for them. They don't deserve to have to go through that. But we, the viewers, like, it is a rival season, and so we're gonna need some more of this. It was great. It was juicy. It was a good time, and yeah, they fit all of this in 60 minutes, 42 minutes, whatever it actually is, outside of commercials, and they did an amazing job. Love this episode, top to bottom. Let's talk some awards now. We got a lot of quotes to go through here, so let's run through them chronologically. Nicole, quote, yes, I'm going to give Nicole credit. I found this very good. Nicole, quote, I've never had nothing for 30 years except a 30-year mortgage. Like, come on, dude. And that 30-year mortgage, I assume, was only a few years in. Nicole's in her 30s. I don't think she bought it when she was a wee child. Maybe, who knows? Leroy, quote, every time there's a heights challenge, everybody has to take shit. People that you never thought have to take a dump. Muddy dumps because they're so nervous. And that's how I feel right now. I feel like I might poop on myself. End quote. People that you never thought would have to take a dump. Like, everyone poops, Leroy. But I think he's saying there, people that you wouldn't think would be nervous are out there needing to take a dump beforehand. Muddy dumps, just graphic. But great quotes from Leroy. TJ, Anissa, you're better than this, and fall stars or fail stars. That's what you should be called. I liked spicy TJ, and I thought he could have been a lot more spicy than he even was here, especially, like, he really does needle Anissa like over and over. And I want to see, like, he has a good enough relationship with all these people, even the ones he hasn't maybe, like Dario and Ashley. Hasn't done a ton of seasons with them because they haven't done a ton of seasons. But, like, even in that situation, like, he's got their utmost respect. But especially with someone like Anissa, I was like, yeah, come on. Like, you guys have known each other for a long time, and she's done whatever, 15 seasons or whatever. And you've been the host of 13 of those or whatever. Like, come on. So love seeing TJ get spicy. I think more spice is even needed. And then Sylvia, 2 quotes at the end nominated. First one, we tried a little bit of a lean. I thought a little bit of a lean. Obviously not enough for Princess over here. And as far as we saw, you did not try a little bit of a lean there, Sylvia. You were the ones I was kind of annoyed with, of like, if your partner is the one that's down to lean over the edge, like, just do it. Like, you might fall. But then her other quote, I think if KellyAnne were a dog, she would be a Chihuahua. She's cute and small and cuddly, but in actuality, she will be the first one to bite you. End quote. And we're going to give Sylvia the win on that for either one you pick. Let me know if I missed any in the comments. Best moment, Beth's jeans and that conversation is a very fun time. Again, really enjoyed that. TJ at least getting kind of a semi-quitters moment and, getting to needle people is always good. The vote in general, just, again, I stood up, yelled yes, and gave a fist bump. So it's got to get nominated for best moment. The fact that TJ walked in and they were having an open air vote with everyone in person. Love that. But obviously the moment of the episode was the very end of the episode. Sylvia and I wrote down Sylvia, Johnny, and Johnny and Beth, the dual confessional, we're friends. No, we're not. Was good. Probably should be nominated, but Sylvia and KellyAnne is nominated and is the winner of the moment of the week. And as for the MVP, a tough one, because it's probably Sylvia over KellyAnne. I feel like Sylvia was more present throughout the episode, and then they have the big moment at the end that I think brings it home in a pretty egalitarian episode. So Nicole probably, is get some votes. Adam probably gets some votes as a representation of him and Steve. Shout out to Steve's outfits, though. He feels very like he wanted to make it clear that he was from like the early 2000s, and he's doing a great job so far. And I just love Steve to death. But Adam gets some votes. Amber definitely gets some votes. John A gets some votes as the representative between her and her partner. But I do think I have to give it to Sylvia as the representative of her and KellyAnne. Sylvia was a little more involved in some of the earlier parts of the episode, and then the big fight at the end. So Sylvia, MVP, episode 2. Now we're on to the power rankings, and there was definitely some movement. But first, I got to say, so I was really, really good during Battle of the Eras at, like, pretty much, if I put you at the bottom of my power rankings, it was a death sentence as far as you were getting out of this game, probably the next week, if not in the next 2 at worst. And 1 for 1 so far here. That's not always to be expected, because I would think people would want to keep the team, as it's literally said here. You want to keep the bad teams here. I forget who, Devin or Leroy or someone says that at the end. But Beth and John A were at the bottom, and now they gone. We got 12 teams left. And there was a decent amount of shakeup here. So let's go through it. Amber and Fessy remain number 1. Devin and Leroy bump up to number 2, except I think these numbers that I have down are actually from preseason. But there wasn't really much change last week. So, yeah, Devin, Leroy in 2, Nani and Turbo 3, Steve and Adam bump up a little bit to 4th for me. They, looking really good, retaining their star, the whole thing. Corey and Big T in 5th. Devon and Shane move up 3 or 4 spots because they showed they were willing to do the stuff. And, that they should probably be above Corey and Big T, but I just still really like the mixture of skill sets of Corey and Big T can bring. But the heights is going to be an Achilles for them if there's any heights in a final, which sometimes does happen. But Devon and Shane in 6, KellyAnne and Sylvia in 7. I know they hate each other and they might quit, but they are a good team if they both were willing to compete. So they're still here firmly in the middle. Melissa and Nicole, Frank and Sam, Ashley and Dario are the big drop. I had them as my dark horse. I think they're going to be kind of okay at everything. Turns out they can't do simple math. And so they fell very far down the list to 10th. Ashley and Anissa in 11th. I still think complete volatility. We're going to get to see that start next week. Anissa not willing to do some of the stuff. And I just don't see it. And Veronica and Katie, I actually, I don't see them. I still can't see them winning a final. But I should honestly, Ashley and Dario should probably be at the bottom of the list for not being able to do the math problem. But yeah, that's the list. Amber and Fessy at the top. Devin, Leroy, Nani Turbo, Steve Adam, Corey Big T. That's your top 5. Last week's predictions, 2, 4, 3. I thought Fessy and Amber would win. They did. I thought Veronica and Katie would get last because I thought there would be like a last place finisher. Technically, they did tie for last with all the other people that DQ'd. So I guess I kind of went 3 for 3 because then I said Beth and John would get voted in and lose, and John A's nightmare would be over quickly. I guess when I said voted in, I thought there was a last place going in, and then the winners would vote in. And so I nailed it. I'm going to say 3 for 3. We basically went 3 for 3. So let's see if I can do it again this week. For next week, I predict. I think Devin and Leroy are going to win the daily. I think they're going to be okay getting a win under their belts. I think they're going to be okay, kind of being a little more front runnery than they allude to here. And I think they're going to win the daily. And then I think when they do, I predict that Devin will try to make a deal with Steve and Adam as the only male teams, as star holders, as someone who he's already said they kind of want to use as a shield of like, those two are the real threat here. Don't worry about me and Leroy. So I think Devin tries to make a deal with Steve and Adam. I think that happens regardless of them winning. And then I think Ashley and Anissa tries, but can't outdo Sylvia and KellyAnne's fight that we saw this episode. But I think it's going to be close, and I think it's going to be good. And we saw a little teaser of it in the next week on, same as we had seen in the trailer. So looking forward to that. That is all for All Stars 5 Rivals, episode 2. 2 episodes down, 2 great 60 minutes worth of challenge goodness. Thank you for being here. Subscribe, as always, Instagram @Challenge Historian if you want to chat or comment on YouTube or on Spotify. Again, I think you can leave comments. I just got to learn to go look at those. So if someone has been leaving comments or questions on Spotify, I apologize. I do know where to go look at those. I just haven't done that yet. But anywhere you want, you can find me, Challenge Historian. Reach out. Let's chat. And until next week, peace.